I'm super excited and super scared for today. So today we're working on putting the boxes together for the cabinets that we're working on. If this is the first video that you're watching, jump back. We started this cabinet project yesterday with cutting up the sheets of plywood into this material stacked behind me. We spent a tremendous amount of time working on the design of these cabinets. We did 2 separate designs using a framed and a frameless. And then I spent a bunch of time making a cut sheet with every component, thickness, and type of wood. And once we had this cut sheet completed, I used a website called Workshop Buddy to create a panel cut sheet. And we used this yesterday to make those. And the reason I am both excited and scared is that this is all very hypothetical. It's like best case scenario, assuming I didn't make any mistakes on transferring my measurements to my worksheet, and assuming I didn't make any mistakes transferring them to here, and then assuming we didn't make any mistakes yesterday cutting. All of that is going to make a beautiful set of cabinet boxes. We're kind of testing or retesting or verifying or validating this theory that if we just plan down to the nth degree, that the building portion of these projects will be both smoother and more enjoyable. I will say that yesterday was enjoyable. It went fairly smooth. We had no major hiccups, although we did kind of modify this sheet plan because when I got to looking at it, even though it's efficient, it wasn't efficient for cutting. I was like, that's gonna be a lot more work. Why don't we just move some pieces around? But that opens up errors. I mean, we could have made a mistake in trying to play musical parts. You can see all my random check marks and stuff, like trying to keep track of what's what. So we're trying that theory, and hopefully everything today goes super good. The last few videos have been about preparing the shopsmith for this project. If you haven't seen those, jump back. We basically do a tour of all the accessories, the bandsaw, the belt sander, the joiner, and the table saw, the planer, lots of toys, right? And then we spent an entire day calibrating this machine and getting every accessory lined up, tuned up, and in theory, working the best possible. We did find a couple of problems in that process, so I think it was time well spent. And I can say that yesterday, all of our cuts were super consistent. One more tool that we got from this estate sale was a Kreg Jig, and that's kind of a broad term. This is their K2000 jig, and I got to looking at this carefully as I was kind of researching this project, trying to make sure that we have all the parts to make it work. And unfortunately, I came to the conclusion that we're missing some stuff. See, this is an older design, and the way this used to work was they had blocks that you put underneath this drill guide. So basically, this is a guide to create a pocket hole for screws, and it's a mechanically fastened way of joining lumber. So it's a jig that allows you to drill a very consistent and very precise hole that, when done properly, is very strong. The problem is we have the screw, it was included, but we don't have all the blocks that you use to adjust the height of this drill guide. This is adjustable because the different thicknesses of material require a different position of the hole that you're going to drill. So the bad news is we don't have all the parts, and therefore this jig, we cannot use it for everything. The good news is it's preset from the factory for 3/4 material. So there's no reason to get rid of this jig. We should still be able to use it for anything that's 3/4 joining to 3/4. And that brings me to this contraption. So this is the updated version of that by about, I think, 13 years or so. So this is the latest Kreg Jig model that they offer. It's called a K5, and they've made a tremendous amount of improvements and changes to this product. If we kind of set these side by side, there's a few really big differences you'll notice right away. This clamping handle is in the front, which ergonomically makes more sense because you're drilling in the front. So instead of having to reach behind your material to clamp the material, they've come up with this kind of ratcheting mechanism that will clamp the material from the front. Second, they added a adjustable drilling block. So instead of needing all these accessory blocks like on this one, this is all one unit and there's no additional blocks. I say that, and I think I saw that there's a block in here. So maybe there is a block. I'm not sure if that's for like really thick material, maybe for 1.5 or 2 inch or something. And then they also added a dust collection port, which is great. If you've been watching the last few videos, you know that dust is gonna become a nemesis as we work through these projects because we're living in our house. And so hopefully this actually works. And when we're doing these pocket holes, we can be collecting the dust instead of making a tremendous mess. There's probably something that I'm forgetting. Oh, they include this kind of collar setting jig that we use to set the depth of the drill bit. And then they've got these kind of cute little wings that go on here, and they act as a support for the material. I guess this had that similar thing, but it didn't have the little storage boxes. And yeah, that about does it. Oh, and then there's one other little hoodookie. Oh, it looks like this goes in here. And what that does is allows you to use that to create repeatable patterns. So you can just slide your stock in, it'll stop, and then you can drill instead of having to line it up without that stop. Something unique about this design that we're using is that it does not feature an integrated toe kick. We're actually going to be using these cabinet leveler legs on the bottom of the boxes. It does two things. One, it simplifies the box. So instead of having this complex toe kick cutout and then the accompanying hardware and whatnot, we don't need to deal with that. We can just build a square box. The other benefit is that these legs will be plastic footed, and so where they touch the concrete, or if we were to ever get water on the floor or something like that, it would not have any ability to wick into the cabinet and destroy it. So this holds the cabinet up off the ground, and then what happens is there's little clips that actually clip onto these legs, and you attach your toe kick to those clips. So you end up with a toe kick, but it's purely kind of a facade instead of built into the cabinet. I've used these in the past and I felt like they did a fantastic job. So that's kind of something unique about what we're working on now. So hypothetically, what we need to do is get these sorted out by the box that they're going to be made into, and then come up with a way to, well, obviously drilling the pocket holes should be pretty straightforward. We're gonna wanna make sure that that's calibrated and that we do some test holes first. And then we need to kind of come up with a way to consistently hold this stuff while we attach the two pieces, because there's no alignment feature built into the pocket hole system. And I don't have any clamps. I don't think that'll do that super well. So we'll dig through the stuff that we've got and see if we can find a way. And if everything goes good, we should be able to get the holes drilled, get the boxes assembled, except for the upper boxes. Let me mention that real quick. So on our lower boxes here, we don't have any backs on them because they're going to be drawer boxes on this side, and then this is actually a sink base, and we don't want a back on that because we want the plumbing to come through freely without any inhibition. The uppers, on the other hand, do have backs, and what we're going to do there is we're going to be using a 1/2 inch sheet of plywood for the back of the cabinet, and then we're going to use a 1/2 inch mounting block behind that, and that's going to hang the cabinet on the wall. So these 1/2 inch backs are going to be dadoed into the box. So before we can assemble the upper boxes, we need to both cut the backs, and then we also need to dado these side pieces. That might be a little too much to get done today. I'm not really sure. We'll have to kind of see how smoothly the first little bit goes. So let's work on the lower cabinets and see if we can get through putting a few of those together, find a good system, and then we'll kind of take an inventory where we're at for the day. Drawer separator. That piece can't be that dimension. Oh, it's 14.5, not 24.5. So we're gonna have to rip that guy down. And we have to do some sawing later because I didn't finish cutting the mounting blocks and stuff yesterday. So we'll just do all the sawing together, I think. Mistake, guys, that we cannot make on the cabinets today. I drilled the finished face and I should have been drilling the unfinished side. All right, that's what a pocket hole looks like. Of course, you woodworkers out there already know all this stuff and you're bored out of your minds, but some people might not know what this stuff is or how it all works or how cabinets get put together. And of course, there's many ways. This is just a very mechanical way of doing this. It does look to me like that bit doesn't quite go deep enough, but maybe it is, I don't know. Let's put something together here and let's see how the screws fit and how the boards come together. One of the tools that this gentleman had that we inherited was this thing, and something tells me this is a jig for like building drawer boxes or something. And I guess in a dream or something, I dreamt that some of these were 3/4 slots and that you could just put you could basically put two pieces of material on like this standing on end, and that it would allow you to screw them together. And that must have been a dream because I've looked at these all and they're 1/2 inch. So these must be designed for 1/2 inch drawer material, or I have no clue what this actually is and it's totally something different. So one of the other complexities, I guess, of the Kreg system is when you join different wood thicknesses, you need different lengths of screws in order to make the joint good and strong. They kind of have a cheat sheet that's included with the jig, and then on the back of their screw boxes they have another one. So for this project we're going to be using 1¼ screws because this is 3/4 stock. For the 1/2 inch drawers we're going to be using 1-inch screws. But there's another difference between these screws, and that is that these are a coarse thread and they're meant for softer woods, pines and plywoods, for example. And then they also have a fine thread screw, which is meant for hardwoods. We got some of those. I don't think we're going to need them, but we're not exactly sure what we're going to do for the face frames and drawer and door fronts, so we may end up going with a hardwood for that, so I got some of those anyway. So for this project, we're going to be using the coarse thread 1¼ screws. Forgot to mention one more small detail. There actually are different head shapes too. This is their, what they call a maxi lock head. It's a bit wider. It kind of looks like it has a washer on the back of it. They also have a thicker but narrower head, and that's used for different applications. I don't think we're going to be using any of those on this project. So you also need to think about the coating. So these are zinc coated and they're for indoor use only. They do make some different coatings. They have stainless steel and stuff that can be used outdoors. So of course we wouldn't be using these in any outdoor application. They may corrode and rust. I don't know what I did wrong, but it's pretty freaking wobbly. I don't know, maybe we should be putting more screws in here, like maybe 1 every 6 inches instead of 2 on each end. Something's not set right. An 1¼ screw barely penetrated the adjacent wood. I almost can tell you right now that it's the depth of the drill bit, because those screw heads I don't think are supposed to even be visible. I mean, you should be able to the screw should be fairly well hidden in there. It is exiting in the right spot though, see? But it feels to me like the screw's not long enough. Oh, screw length. That's exactly where I screwed up. I thought this said like material thickness, and so I set this to 3/4, and we should have been to 1.25 inches. Oh, see, I think I did it backwards too. So I think you're supposed to use this side of the jig. Well, apparently I should read the instructions more carefully on this. Oh yeah, that's way deeper. That's feeling tighter. Oh yeah, that's what I would expect from those screws. Nice. Well, I was able to smash it. Nice, looks like I tore the heads right out of the plywood. Okay, that wasn't really a fair test. I think the screws are in pretty good condition, but it looks like we actually tore the grain out of this plywood before the screws failed, so that's impressive, huh? That's pretty good holding power. And it doesn't look like any of the screws even bent. Well, I guess if I can stand on it, it's probably strong enough for cabinetry. Well, I feel like I have most of the bugs worked out. I do need to come up with a system so that we don't end up drilling the wrong side of this stuff. There's probably a couple questions that people have. So you have these ugly holes in your cabinets, then what do you do? Well, two things. One, we're building a framed set of cabinets. So a lot of these will be hidden by the finish wood that we install. If you had a frameless cabinet or a panel cabinet, they actually make wooden plugs that you can put into the hole, and then you can cleanly cut and sand off so that the hole that you drill is concealed. Kind of like how they do doweling with like furniture and stuff like that. I think starting from left to right makes sense in my brain because that's kind of how we designed them. So let's start trying to put this 24-inch drawer base together. And the only place these panels should actually get a screw would be right here where they meet the bottom, and that's on both sides. So there shouldn't be really any other pocket screws in this panel up high, because this panel will get pocket screws and so on. So yeah, just need to make sure we're thinking through each piece. Some of you guys out there thought today was going to be easy peasy. You just have to drill a bunch of holes and put screws in them. How hard could it be? And I think with the cabinets, it's like a puzzle. You have a finished face, unfinished face. You have to think about where these screws are going to hide. So even though we have face frames and stuff, you're still going to be able to see in the box in some of these cabinets. So we have to think about where are you going to be standing and what will be visually obvious to the person with the cabinets, so that we don't have to put a bunch of work into putting those little wooden plugs in. I think with these cabinets, because of how they're oriented, I think it's safe to use pencil, but we'll probably just use light pencil. So I'm just going to put a light pencil mark like that. And then this one being the other side, let's just put a light pencil mark there too. Oh good, it all comes off. Wasn't too bad. There's definitely kind of a propensity to suck this panel in maybe like a 30-second during tightening. Maybe that's because my clamping out here is not enough to resist that, but that's probably a lot of force. I mean, it's pretty close, but I think if you aren't careful, that stuff adds up. And then when you go to put your centerpiece in, it doesn't fit, or it tries to bow the cabinet or something really wonky like that. So I need to keep an eye on that stuff. There might be a trick to preventing that. I'm not really sure what it is. Otherwise, that's it. That's pocket hole joinery. The question some people are asking is, are you using glue? The answer is no, not yet. I guess I'll say final assembly, although I think this is final assembly, but I just have no idea how this is all going to turn out. I'm not that confident in my skills, so if I use glue now, I am married to that. And I think that's one benefit to the pocket hole system, is that you can build things that are temporary, and they can be disassembled, they can be modified. And so there's really, I mean, there is an advantage to gluing this for sure. It would be much stronger, I think, at the joints with glue. But for now, I think that the pocket hole joinery will have to suffice. And maybe when we get better at building cabinets, we'll feel more confident about using something like glue. There's a couple things I think we should do. So if you're standing over this cabinet like you will be, you're going to be looking down into this drawer cavity. So I think the finished side of this should be up. And then this piece, well, we're just going to have to finish one side or the other. So I'm really not sure what to do about that. I haven't got that far with finishing, so I think we're going to attach that piece, and then if we have to, we'll sand it and we'll finish it. And then there's these pieces. Those are just support blocks that are going to go underneath the top. We could put a solid top on here, but that's a lot of wood, and I don't think it's really necessary. I could be proven wrong once we put these cabinets into service, but I think once this is all screwed together, it'll be fairly strong. Because of my own morbid curiosity. Oof, that's not very good. So the box is already trying to torque. It's pretty good there. So I'm wondering if that's partly because of climbing in 30-second on both sides. So now the top of this thing is trying to suck in. So maybe when we put the upper blocks on, maybe that will help resolve some of that, but uh-oh, that's not a good sign already, guys. So this is going the other way. That's actually, oh yeah, it's totally going the other way. And we got the same issue down here. And what's this doing? Well, that's actually leaning the other way. So it looks to me like we just need to square the box up. It just looks like that this whole thing just needs to lean that direction, and we'll square up just fine. Well, I decided actually to just touch sand this and bring it up to 220 grit, and then we'll just hit it with some spray lacquer, and then that should be pretty much ready to install. This needs a little bit of time to dry. I just raised the grain a little bit with a wet rag, probably hit it with sandpaper one more time, and then some lacquer. So while that's drying and doing all that fun stuff, we didn't actually cut the blocks, the support blocks, yesterday as part of our cutting, so we might as well just get that stuff caught up, and then when we get to the other boxes, we won't have to wait. I had a revelation while I was working on ripping these little support blocks, and that is that we actually need to pocket joint this front side of the cabinet. I guess we have to choose what the front of the cabinet is, because this is basically the same either way, right? But the reason for that is the face frame is that's how the face frame is going to mount to the box, and that way when we go to put the face frame on, we actually are hiding all that joinery. So when you look inside, there will be no screws, and when you look at the face, there will be no screws visible. The good news is we can still do that. Even though this is a box, we should be able to set it in the jig and do it that way. We could also, I think, take that jig out and attach it to the side of the box right here and do it that way if that was more convenient. I guess I don't right now see a reason why we can't just put it back in the jig and drill a few of those for the face frame. So we got everything on the side for the face frames. We're waiting on the centerpiece. Let's set this guy to the side and let's start working on the sink base. Well, there it is, the sink base. And wouldn't you know it, I screwed it up. So this obviously is the front because this is where we drilled pocket holes to attach the face frame. And when I went to attach this cross member here, by the way, the reason we don't want a solid top on this one is because a sink is gonna go through there, right? So we need a big cavity for the sink to go through, and then plumbing back here and all that stuff. Well, I was working away, clamped this, set this in there, and attached that style to here. And this is the one that had, or excuse me, anyway, whatever. I had this backwards. I had the one that did not have the screws or the holes drilled in it for the face frame. And the problem is these holes are not drilled perfectly identical to those. So when I went to put the correct one on there, the whole board wanted to shift because it was trying to grab the hole from the other cross member. Thankfully, I just was able to drill pocket holes into this guy and put this guy back on there, and all is well. I feel like it's really easy with this stuff to get in a hurry and to kind of get in a groove and just start working away and not thinking about how everything relates to each other. And as soon as we start drilling pocket holes, we're starting to create orientations front, back, left, right, top, and bottom. And if you get in a hurry, it's easy to just put holes in the wrong thing or not put holes in the wrong thing. So I'm also thinking that I probably should have drilled pocket holes in the bottom piece, because what's connecting the bottom of the face frame to the cabinet? Nothing. So here we are, 2 cabinets now into this process, and I'm realizing that I forgot one more set of pocket holes. So I think I'll probably drill those a little bit later. I want to get the other cabinet put together. We've got 2. We've got the 24-incher. We're waiting on that centerpiece. We've got the 26-inch sink base assembled. And the only thing left is the 16-inch drawer base. Oh, I got that right. I thought I put that on backwards, so there's all the screws on the bottom for the face. Gosh darn it. Ow. Come to me, my pretty. Oh yeah, look at that. Not too shabby. This side shiny, this side shiny.
So this is the left.
Yep.
Here's the sink base.
Yep, that's the sink.
And then here's the other one. So this is the finished grade plywood. This feels like melamine to me. You're telling me this isn't cleanable?
This is finished, but this is not. I did have to finish this piece. So this piece I actually painted on both sides.
Huh.
And so or lacquered or whatever.
Oh wow, you lacquered that?
Yeah. There's actually a small flaw I found just now as I was moving this cabinet over here. This is a 1/4 inch too tall. You can see kind of how that goes up to the middle. Probably doesn't look like I got much done today, but I can tell you this is a ton of work and problem solving and stuff.
Something I want to share is I feel like when Jesse and I were working together, we were really on the same page. So like at the end of the day, there's no need to talk about this. We both were just like exhausted and so appreciative of what we got done because we were both there for all the problem solving. And now that we're not working together, I don't feel a disconnect per se, and I don't not have appreciation for what he did, but it's really easy to not have those things.
Yeah, and it's easy to understate like the time that I spent an entire day tuning the Shopsmith, and this is where it's paying off. So these pieces fitting like that, right there, insane. Like that right there. That's the time spent on the Shopsmith. So much so that when you see this, you're like, oh, that's cut wrong.
Right.
Not, well, it doesn't quite fit. We'll just screw it, glue it, and nobody will know the difference. So I think appreciating how much time it takes to do things well and being patient is important too, instead of demanding more productivity out of yourself. Guys, don't worry. Alyssa hasn't been spared completely from this project. She still has to edit the video, so she gets to listen to all my grumbling, whining, complaining, cussing,
now I'm whining a lot through editing video, unless it's electrical.
Yeah.
I was telling Jesse, if it's electrical, like I edit the whole video and I'm like, I have no idea what I just edited. Jesse, does this make sense? Yes, okay, I did a good job.
So this is advice. So if you're in a relationship with someone and you're building a house and it seems like they don't fully appreciate the work that you do, film your day, every minute of it, and then hand it to them and say, please edit this video. Right. And trust me, they will get to relive every minute of the glory of your project.
You're still together.
Yeah, if you're still together. So it's one way that even though Alyssa and I don't get to work together as much as we used to, she still gets to be there for a lot of my fun.